Hello, dear viewer, dear listener. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe with yet another exciting and wonderful episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, coming straight from Black. Black stands for Bistro Lounge and Cocktail Kitchen, one of our restaurants here in Gaborone at Mogobe Plaza. I have a great guest. It's a repeat guest. His name is Seatla Ratshosa, who's my former banker and who's also a finance expert. And we're coming to discuss issues of cash. Welcome to the studio. Yeah, we're greeting the new way. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for paying us a visit once again.
Yes.
It's a makeshift studio for obvious reasons. We want to, to be out in the open and to enjoy the Botswana sun.
Always refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you tell the viewers what it is you do professionally and a little bit about your background?
Yes, I'm a former banker. I also used to work in insurance. So currently what I do, I'm a wealth advisor.
Mm-hmm.
I help people to understand ways of maneuvering finances and understanding how the principles of wealth creation basically. I'm a trainer. I also run an insurance brokerage.
Okay. As a wealth advisor, maybe before we get into our 10 nuggets for today, which is about cash, we're going to talk about nyoko it's money. But before we get into that, the coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever it's called, COVID-19, I don't know what's the further fancy name for it. How is it affecting us as Botswana, and what impact do you think it will have on our economy?
Well, it will definitely have an impact. Right now, if you look at China is one of our main suppliers for various things, be it in construction, be it in design. Most of those areas, supplies are coming from China. So right now, China is in shutdown, almost or partially. So a lot of people are hesitant to actually get resources there. So you can imagine the economy is not moving. A lot of activities have to be halted. You look at the hospitality industry also, it has been affected.
Look at Black here. It's been empty, literally empty. I think we are the only guests today.
Yeah. So it's right now the impact might not have been calculated properly, but later we will see that it has impacted the economy.
It might affect our growth rate for this year.
It should.
Yeah, but there's some good news. I read that China, new infections have gone down and they've had to close some of those hospitals.
Yeah.
That's what I read. So maybe there's...
So the hope is that it doesn't last long.
Let's talk about the importance of money and cash flow to a business. That's a subject we want to discuss. As a general proposition, why is this an important subject for a business?
Yeah, so I found it critically important because, in Botswana, we are not known for keeping a lot of cash. And if you ask a lot of people in the financial industry, they'll always tell you invest in this, invest in that. What you might not be told is that some of those assets are not very liquid. And when you are running a business, you really need cash to actually be able to move about every now and then.
So I suppose the first point we could start is a definition. When you talk about cash flow, what do you mean in a business?
Yeah.
What are you referring to?
So cash flow, basically, we are talking about the money that allows you to operate your business. On a daily basis, there are supplies that you need to buy, there are people that you need to pay on a monthly, utilities that you need to pay. Without doing that, there are marketing costs that you have to incur, travel expenses. Without those, your business is really not operational. So basically, that's what cash flow is all about. Yeah.
Okay, the next point I want us to delve into is capital expenditure investment. It sounds like a very fancy terminology, but we're talking about cash, but in what context? When you're talking about, capital expenditure investment.
Yeah. So really, in this subject, we are talking, and when we talk cash, we are talking hard cash here. We are talking hard cash. The notes that you keep in your pocket or the notes that you keep in your bank, very very liquid type of cash, right? That you can use at any point in time. So the reason why
even electronic cash, I suppose, since these days we
Yes,
Yeah.
but we will later on during the interview talk about maybe some of the limitations of that, or especially when you are a small business.
Yes.
So a capital expenditure, really, we are talking about the money that allows you to grow as a business, right? As a small business or a medium enterprise, every now and then there are certain things that you want to implement. You want to buy new machines, you want to buy a new truck. That's capital expenditure, and sometimes you need to do it urgently because the need arises now, and you have to take advantage of it. So you will need to actually have hard cash to be able to do that. So we can't always be dependent on funding from others, because you need to put up a proposal, you need to negotiate with them, and sometimes it
Pay
takes
some
time.
consultants.
Pay some consultants, and sometimes it takes time, and opportunities can pass you by.
All right. So, are you now urging people to have cash put aside at any given time?
Yeah, I encourage people to have a good balance, but that's something that we, as financial advisors, can actually do some computations for you to say, okay, this is the amount of cash that you actually need to store as cash, and then some of it or most of it you can put it in hard assets.
Okay. Now, the next point or nugget that I want us to touch on is when you talk of company acquisition. Are you saying keeping money available to acquire a company, or you are just talking about cash flow for the given company? What can you break that down for me? Unpack it a little bit.
Yeah, you know, Mr. Mogobe, one of the ways that allows a business to grow can be acquisition of another company. It could be an old competitor. It could be another company that may complement what you are already doing right now. But acquiring a company, it's a very complex process, and even for banks, it's very complex, because they need to assess that particular business, they need to do a due diligence on that business, and it takes time. But the capabilities of that business, what that business has been doing to you, or the lack of having that business under your umbrella.
The impact it has.
The impact it has. Yeah. So when you have cash, this can actually enable you to do that quicker. If you look at companies like Microsoft, you look at Apple, you look at Facebook, they keep a lot of cash.
I'm surprised. I was told that Apple is about to have is it $1 billion or $1 trillion? No, $1 trillion, some ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
So why they keep so much cash? I wonder.
Yeah. So the best way to actually multiply your money, or let me say that one of the sure ways to actually multiply your money better than any other investment, is to take advantage when you are using cash.
Let me understand this though. Cash in this current environment cannot be kept in a bank because the low, extremely low interest rates. I would even argue non-existent interest rates.
Yeah.
So are you advising businesses to just show up cash?
Yeah.
When it isn't that lazy cash doing nothing for them?
It is lazy cash.
Yes.
But remember, there has to be a reason why you are actually keeping that cash. If I may give an example, if you invest in the stock market, right? If you invest in real estate, you are putting in cash, you are getting asset that is going to pay you some level of interest. Maybe you are looking at a 10% growth every year. Something like that, right? But when you put money in the bank, you might be putting it in an operating account, which doesn't give you any interest. But the main reason why you are leaving the cash there is to take advantage, so that you can actually get some properties at way less than open market value. Because the quicker you can present the cash, right, the more advantageous it is for you to negotiate a good price.
Okay, let me break it down the other way. If we take a company like Apple sitting on so much cash, how does it advantage them?
So you know, with tech companies, there are always young technology companies that are coming up all the time. And some of the ways that we have seen some of these big giants growing, it has been through acquisition of some of the smaller companies.
Yes.
So they don't want to compete with anyone, because when everyone is going to the bank to seek funds, you are competing amongst many. So many people can access that route, but very few people actually do have liquid cash
reserve, yeah.
to reserve. And for small companies that are growing or that have established something very important, they like to cash in fast. Yeah, so that's why most of those companies, they keep a lot of cash to take advantage of such opportunities.
All right, before we talk about dividends, I'm asking this for myself. Is it better to store your cash in immovable assets or fixed assets, or it's better to store it in its purest form?
There has to be a balance there, Mr. Mogobe. You need investing in the long term is very critical. It has shown for a lot of wealthy people that long-term investing actually works. It is the sure way of actually becoming wealthy.
Yes.
So you want to put your money, because if you put your money in properties, there are so many ways of actually getting returns. One is the increase maybe on your rentals, which is the passive income that is coming to your pocket, and also you are appreciating some equity over time. So you want to have some of your money sitting there. And then you also want to have hard liquid cash sitting somewhere, but there has to be a balance. You can't keep all your money as hard cash, because the economy can shift either way.
Does anybody have a formula? Do you have a formula? If you have, for argument's sake, $1 million, or let's say even $500,000, how much of it you should focus on reinvesting on property or on assets? How much of it you should keep while waiting for that opportunity that will always come?
Yeah, I believe depending on the industry that you are in, because we operate in different industries. If your industry is a tech industry, I would advise that you save a bit more, you put a bit more in hard cash, maybe 30 to 40%, and then you can put the other 60% on hard assets. Yes, but if you are running a business where you don't need to acquire a lot, I would say maybe 10 to 15% for emergencies and for general cash flow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for that valuable piece of advice. Let's talk about dividends and share repurchasing. We've seen a lot of companies, especially in America, where I think a classic example is Berkshire Hathaway, where they're constantly buying their own shares and repurchasing them.
Yeah.
What is that all about? To me, I've never really understood.
It's a trick.
Yeah.
So what happens is you put your company in the market for public consumption, and then so the public will buy shares, and because they've got some level of comfort for your particular business, right? So you are selling shares, you are raising capital, and then after some time, if the main shareholders are buying back the shares, what it is saying to the people who are actually investing on that company is to say, oh, so the owners actually do have a lot of confidence in this company. Why are they buying back shares? You know, are they planning something big coming? So it generally almost always increases the share price value. So when you are doing that as a business owner, buying back your shares, you are actually showing the public that you've got too much confidence, because often people feel that companies sell shares because they want to run away, they want to sell it off, and then because they're sensing that there's trouble coming. Yeah. So when you are repurchasing your own shares,
gives confidence to the market.
It gives confidence to the market.
Well, talking to individuals, or about individuals in terms of dividends, is it advisable for them to be thinking in terms of reinvesting their dividend when they get the dividend check, say from BTC? Yeah.
It is important, but as long as you still have a lot of confidence in the company that you are investing in. Because for me, I've always looked at investing in companies as a confidence thing. If you are investing in a company just because today the share price is up, then it kind of shows me that you don't have a good appreciation of the investments that you are getting into, because you want to believe in the model, you want to believe in the management, you want to believe in the company.
Okay.
So when you do reinvest, your goal would be maybe to own a certain number of shares in the future. So if you have a plan like that, then all the time when you are giving dividends, you can actually reinvest it until you meet your target.
Thanks for that advice. Number 5, which I think is important, is survival during a down economy, during this coronavirus situation. What is your advice? How do we survive, and how does cash help us survive when things are bad?
So
because I don't know whether we are getting into a recession or we are heading towards a depression. I really don't know. All I know is I don't want to participate in any of it.
It's very critical, during times like this, and you'll find that during times like this, only businesses who have got hard cash can survive. If I may give an example, say maybe you have a construction business, right? You employ a number of employees, maybe a couple of engineers on a permanent basis, and you employ them on a permanent basis because you are almost always guaranteed of jobs, and you want them on sites all the time. So when something like this happens, there is not a lot of activity. So what are you going to do? Are you going to retrench? You risk losing some of your key staff to other companies, right? So during times like this is when you actually use your cash to make the business survive without actually receiving any income. You make sure that everything is stable, your employees are comfortable, you are busy maybe restructuring, looking at...
I think you are describing my business currently. Because there's nothing happening in these restaurants, but somehow we have to stay alive. So it's same like that, the example you gave in construction, also in the hospitality situation.
It's the same. So you can imagine in the hospitality industry, there are a lot of overheads. You clean rooms, you change sheets, you need to make sure that people are available, the security is available, the cleaners are available, the chefs are available all the time, even without guests. So how do you survive in an industry like that without cash? If it goes for longer, you are probably going to have to downsize. But when you downsize, the market might just pick up, and then suddenly tourists are coming in, and your employees are nowhere to be seen.
To be found.
So
does insurance play a role in a situation like that?
Well,
because the next point we want to talk is emergency preparation.
Yes.
So maybe you can cover emergency preparation and discuss insurance.
So there are certain types of emergencies which need your own cash, and certain types of emergencies that actually need for you to have secured a good insurance plan. Your building burning down is not something that you want to save for. You want to pay a small fee to an insurance company so that they take all the risk, because for them they pool funds. But for you, you need to actually put cash aside for emergencies like what is happening right now with the coronavirus. Insurance companies had not underwritten a scenario like this and have a policy in place for something like this.
It's not a black swan event, someone said. It happens every 50 to 100 years.
So, but the problem with underwriting such policies which affect the whole economy is that it can actually even take insurance companies off business. Because normally when they do the underwriting, they look at the situation and say, what's the worst case scenario? Maybe 20-30% of people are affected, will be able to cover. So if 100% of people are affected, it will be a bigger problem for them.
So what more can you say about emergency preparation in the context of what we're experiencing? Is there something that we could have done, or something that we can still do?
I think it's something that we can still do, because really what needs to be done is to say emergencies are never a surprise, right? Because they will happen.
They should never be a surprise.
It should never be a surprise, because they will happen. So what we are really encouraging is for people to develop a culture of knowing that as much as things are good right now, one day something bad might happen. So when we say create an emergency pocket, we are talking about things like that. So you can imagine a situation where maybe the country is under attack because Maybe in Botswana we have never been attacked, but in other countries those things happen. You've got properties, and then some rebels come, they terrorize the whole town, your properties are destroyed, your tenants have to move out, but you don't have any cash for you to take your family and go and hide somewhere. So emergencies like that happen all the time, which is why it's very important to say, out of 100 pula that I have, 20 pula should be put aside for emergencies. If I can at least have 3 to 6 months.
Now let's talk about how cash cuts transaction costs. This is point number 7.
Yeah.
Does it save transaction costs to keep a lot of cash?
It does actually. But I would say this for a lot of small businesses, because small businesses sometimes, depending on the industry that you are in, it might be margin, volumes driven, very small margins. So in businesses like that, you need to keep away as much as possible from using electronic systems to actually transfer, because there are a lot of transactional charges that happen. So unlike in a company that receives maybe cash twice in a month, that there aren't a lot of transactional charges there. But a business which trades every day, receives cash every day, those businesses are vulnerable to huge transactional charges. There's a reason why our friends who do retail a lot, there's a reason why they prefer to transact in cash, because they know that every time they make a transfer, and they have to transfer every day, they have to pay someone every day.
I don't know why,
transactional
especially
fees
our traders from the East sometimes insist on cash.
Yes.
Even for lump sum significant purchases.
Yeah, they're following that
they
trick.
They insist you go to the ATM instead of swiping.
Yeah.
Explain that to me again.
They're following that trick. So, for example, some transactional charges would be maybe 0.25% of the value of the transaction. That's a significant amount.
Yes.
Depending on the industry that you are in, your margin could be maybe 1% all the time. So if you are going to lose 25% of that 1%, it's significant.
Okay.
Yeah. So they will rather trade in cash, so that they don't have to pay.
Should SMMEs be moving in that direction?
SMMEs should be very careful about any money that moves from their pocket, because the stage that they're at, it's very hard for them to get financing from banks. It's very hard for them to raise any sort of capital. They don't have enough assets to actually help them with any type of income. So for them, it's every type accounts.
Number 8, you say that cash helps businesses expand without using loans. I can relate to that, but is it really advisable for people to avoid leverage, or as a general proposition?
It's not.
I think you can answer this as a banker.
Yes. Yeah, it's not advisable, but then again, we need to be realistic and say, what are the chances of a small business at any point in time, or a particular industry, accessing cash from financial institutions, right? We have seen over the years that a lot of financiers, they're always shifting the goalposts. Today they're happy to finance this industry. Tomorrow they are not happy because of some of the assessments that they make. They can feel that this industry
partly
is
because they are managed from overseas, some of them from foreign capitals?
Yeah, it's possible that actually highly likely, because people normally make decisions because of what they know. So if they have experienced bad things happening in the construction industry in Singapore, they might just come and implement that policy
without
in Botswana
without
necessarily looking at the local industry.
So you think businesses should keep cash and avoid loans wherever possible, or
wherever possible they should, because you see, when you are seeking a loan, you are dependent on someone, and depending on how that person feels, or the appetite they have at the time, to actually assist you with what you need, it might affect your growth. So if you know that you need to grow and you have your plan to grow for the next 5 years, and you know that you need a cash injection of this much and this much, it is always good to have a buffer, so that if financiers are not coming on board, you can actually grow and expand by yourself without seeking finance.
Okay, you say that the other point that we want to talk about when we're talking about cash is how it helps pay bills faster. There are two schools of thought on this, isn't it? That's those who say you should keep your suppliers on a leash and see if you can't get anything between 90 days and 150 days.
Yeah.
And there are those like you who seem to be saying, pay faster, get it over and done with. Can you help us understand your position?
Yeah, so it will depend at the level at you are which. If you look at small businesses don't have a lot of negotiating, power when it comes to dealing with suppliers. So if a supplier gives you 30 days as a small business and you are able to pay them upfront all the time, you can get a better rate. That's for sure, right? But for corporates, it's different. Corporates will delay because the delay it's coming from them trying to manage their own cash flows, right? They're saying we'll pay Mr. Mogobe after 60 days, even though we get paid in 30 days, right? Because they don't want to run out of cash.
Yes,
they want to always have enough cash to run their operations and maybe expand or do other things that they might want to take advantage of during that period. So they will want to delay. But if you are growing and small, you want to pay faster so that you can be trusted. One, you need to be trusted by your suppliers. Two, it can give you future credit lines if you are known for paying faster, and it can save you a lot of money.
10th point I want us to cover is the one of liquidity. Still a cash.
Yes.
Why is liquidity important? And can you illustrate for us how it advantages a company?
Yeah. So basically, and we've been speaking about hard cash as the most liquid asset that one can have.
Yes.
And when we speak liquidity, we are really looking at the ability of the business to be able to pay their the short-term obligations on time all the time. And being liquid as a business, it allows you to really pay your salaries on time. It gives you a good reputation, and you can sustain yourself during emergencies, because you can imagine there are so many businesses which actually build the balance sheet, right, with long-term assets, and they don't have very liquid assets like cash. So sometimes when you are operating and you are faced with a problem, maybe payments are not coming on time or they're being delayed, you don't have enough money, you can't sell a house so that you can pay salaries.
No, you can't.
It takes time. It takes time to sell a property. So you always want to have liquid cash to be able to actually.
All right. As we conclude our time together, tell the viewer about your business and tell them, in terms of these concepts we've covered, how you can assist a small to medium-sized business person in maneuvering and navigating these waters and understanding more about cash. What modules or what programs do you have available to deal with these things?
Yes. So we provide advisory services to business owners and to individuals, basically to show them a model of how they need to be splitting their cash, how they need to be looking at their finances. We make them understand how to move from an income statement to a balance sheet and how to balance the two, because they are both important. You need to understand how it works. And we actually help businesses to learn ways of creating wealth and ways to be sustainable by themselves without being dependent on either government or on financiers, so that they can fulfill their plans on time. So that's basically what we offer for businesses.
Okay. And then can you tell the viewer how to reach you and how they can access your services?
Yes. So we are available. Our office line is 311-7036. And we are available also on WhatsApp at 7291675. Our
Okay.
offices are in Block 5, Mountain View Mall.
Okay. Thank you for being our guest. We always ask our guests to do us a kindness of
Yes.
just shamelessly promoting our channel. Can you tell the viewer to subscribe and to like our channel?
Yes. Please do subscribe to Mogobe 10 nuggets.
Nuggets of wisdom.
Nuggets of wisdom. Watch them all the time. You will learn a lot. It's the things that you learn that is going to help you to maneuver life and actually create the wealth that you want to have in life.
And we intend to bring him again, dear viewer, dear listener. So watch this space. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Mr.
Right.